Good morning. Today we will be addressing the topic of classes and objects. Let me start to give you an idea about, let's say, the topic itself. Now, assume we want to model information about specific persons. Okay, thus last time we took a look at a concept. Well, the concept is called methods. Here I'm having a method called actually the main method. As we saw before, this is actually the method that the Java virtual machine will execute once actually the program will compile successfully. And what we want actually to do today, is to think about modeling information about specific persons. Now, we know exactly if we talk about persons, then actually these persons are having some of the attributes. Some of the attributes that we want actually to model in a programming language like Java. That's actually, I will start with the first one. That means I will take actually one person, then most probably the person is having a name, okay? And since actually I'm dealing actually with the programming language Java and I'm using a variable called name, I have actually always to declare it. Thus, I know exactly that this variable is of type string. Last but not least, I know exactly that actually the person is having also an age. Okay, thus assume that Mina is 22 years old. And last but not least, he is having actually a gender, and the gender of the person in this case is male. Okay, thus here I'm having actually information about Mina, his age, as well as his corresponding gender. Now, assume we are having actually a second person, and the person is a female, and we want actually to model information about her. Thus, what I will do is, I will actually replicate what I did actually so far. Thus, I will think about a new identifier for the second person. I will call it actually name2. Okay, the person is called Sarah. Okay, she is 19 years old. Thus, I will just define a new variable which is called h2. Okay, and last but not least, the gender of Sarah in this case actually will be modeled with a variable. The variable is called gender2. Thus, in this case, I will model it actually with a female. Okay, you will compile actually the code, then actually the code will compile correctly, since actually what we are doing here is just actually to define some of the variables and to assign them corresponding values with the corresponding data types in this case. Okay, now, one problem if we want to start actually to model this, let's say, person, then, and we are having, let's say, 1,000 persons actually to model, then at the end of the day, we will end up with 3,000 variables that we have actually to deal with. Thus, it's really actually tough to manage all these actually variables. And the second problem is some people actually could write actually the following where, let's say, I will be having age 22 as well as the gender. I'm not actually following actually the name Mina in this case. And that's why the question is, if we think about, let's say, Mina, then the question is, I want actually to know the age of Mina. Thus, only the one who implemented, let's say, this program will know exactly that the age of actually this person is 22. Okay, any other person could actually think that, let's say, H2 could also actually, let's say, the age of Mina. That's actually, there is no link at all between actually the variables in this case. And this makes the problem actually a little bit tough. Now, what I could have actually done is just actually to define this one actually to be X, this one is to be A, this one to be Z. The gender could have another variable with the variable is W. That means I don't need actually to have it, let's say, with, let's say, identifiers that make sense. And last but not least, if I will compile, then this one actually will compile correctly. Since I'm using actually different variables, I'm declaring actually all variables with the corresponding data type. And here actually the problem will become actually more complicated in this case. Thus, the topic of today is just actually to deal with the concept, and the concept is, let's say, the concept of classes and objects. And this is exactly how, let's say, persons in general deal with objects, with let's say the brain of the person. This is exactly actually how they perceive the word in this case. Thus, let me give you an idea about, let's say, the topic, and we will go actually further with the implementation itself. We will forget actually the programming for a while. Okay, thus, if we think and if we perceive actually the word, then actually we will always actually think about, let's say, things that can be considered to be object and other things that are actually not objects at all. Okay, thus, for us, it's always easier to list things that are objects. However, actually, if you tell me list actually something which is not an object, it will be actually tough. That means if I'm talking about air, then air cannot be considered actually for the brain as an object. But if you think about, let's say, a chair is an object, a desk is an object, and this object is having actually properties, is having attributes, is having, let's say, I can describe it actually nicely in this case. Thus, what people did a long time ago, they just actually looked at the human brains, and human brains, actually, it turned out that the human brains actually want to think about objects. That means actually all our thoughts as well as memories are organized in terms of objects and relationship actually between the objects. And this is exactly actually the topic of today. The topic of today is just to take a look at a programming language like Java, which is an object-oriented programming language that supports, let's say, the way of thinking, okay, of a human brain. That means what we want actually to do now is we want actually to think about a way how we can use Java, let's say, to model, in this case, the class, okay, in terms of objects in this case. Okay, thus, let me start actually to tell you about the following. Now, what I will do is, I will start actually to implement things a little bit differently. Okay, thus, last time we took a look at the concept of a method where we will be writing different methods with a specific signature. And last but not least, inside actually the methods, we are using variables. Either actually the variables are the parameters of the method or local variables that belong only to the method itself, to the body of the method itself. Okay, today we will go actually one step further. Okay, I will start actually with defining something called the attributes of an object. Thus, the first question is to think about, let's say, characteristics of objects in this case. If we think about person, then I know exactly that a person is having a name. The name will be modeled actually with, will be declared with a variable called name, and its corresponding data type is a string. I know exactly that this person is having an age. Thus, I will be defining a second attribute, which is actually called age. And last but not least, I will just actually go to gender, and gender is a character in this case. Okay, thus, the attributes are modeled in Java with something called instance variables. Okay, thus, you will see for the first time variables that are declared outside a method in this case. That means I am defining now a class. The class is called person. Okay, and this person is an object having actually three attributes defined by three instance variables. The first one is a name, the second one is an age, and last but not least, the third, let's say, instance variable is a gender in this case. Now, once I will compile, Java will not complain. That means actually I am having a possibility to implement now a class. Okay, thus the class for now will be considered to be a factory of objects. Okay, and an object is nothing else than an instance of a class in this case. Okay, thus let's start actually to think about actually the following. If a person is a factory of objects, then I need to have a possibility to create objects in this case. Okay, thus I will go to one part where I will be creating objects. The question is, how can I do it? Okay, we can do it with something called either one constructor or multiple constructors in this case. Okay, the constructor is nothing else than a machine, okay, that will expect input, okay, just to be able to create a specific instance of the class itself. Okay, that's what I will be doing here is I will be implementing something called the constructor. Okay, there are actually some conventions in this case. Okay, the name of the constructor has to be identical to the name of the class itself. Okay, this is actually a must. And last but not least, I will write actually the following. I will be expecting something of type string, an argument of type string, an argument of type integer, and an argument of type character. And what the constructor will do now is just actually to create an object. This is actually the task of the constructor, as well as initialize the corresponding instance variables of the object. That means any object that I will be creating will have 3 instance variables, and all of them are called name, age, and gender for every person I will be creating. Thus, in this case, if someone will, let's say, pass for me an actual parameter n, then the name of the person that I will be creating actually will be assigned actually to be n. The age will be assigned actually to be a, and last but not least, the gender is assigned actually to be equal to g in this case. Okay, thus we are almost done. And once I will compile, Java will not complain. Okay, thus if you look at the signature of the constructor, it looks actually similar to a method, but it's not a method. It's a constructor, and Java actually will know it. Because if I will implement a method, there is actually something missing. A method expects always a return value. Okay, thus if I will implement a method, okay, to calculate the factorial of a function, what I have to do is I use actually the keyword static, then I will be having factorial of int x. Thus, there is always a return value expected in this case. And if I want to implement actually something that doesn't return anything, Java expects from me a void, let's say, keyword in this case. Now, you see here, I'm not using even actually the void keyword. Okay, and once I will compile, Java will not complain. Why? Because Java knows exactly that this person is not a method, but actually this person is a constructor. And the constructor is there to do actually 2 things. The first thing is to create an object of type person, and the second actually task is to assign the corresponding instance variables of the object that I'm creating with the actual parameter that will be passed to the constructor itself. Okay, now there is one convention. Okay, if you take a look at the name of the class is called person. Okay, thus what you have actually to know is that any constructor that I will be creating has to have actually the same name of the class itself. If I will write actually something of the following form, Java will complain. Java will tell you, oh, I'm having a problem. The P for me is considered to be a method. Okay, and it tells you, I'm sorry, the declaration, the signature of the method is not a valid one. Why? Because I'm missing a return value. Thus, in this case, I know exactly if I want actually to have a machine, and this machine will create a specific type of object, then this machine has to belong actually to the name of the factory itself. Thus, if the class is called person, then in this case, the constructor has to be called actually person in this case. And as you know, Java is case sensitive. If I will do it actually with p lowercase, Java will complain because it will see actually the person now as a method. The method has to have a return data type. If there is no return data type, then actually I need to write a void keyword. That means in this case we will know exactly, let's say, that the person has to be written in uppercase because the class is person, and the person actually is written in uppercase. Again, once I will compile, Java actually will not complain. Okay, and now the question is, how can I use it? Now actually what I can do is I can go and create actually a specific person. Thus I will be creating a first person P1, which is equal to person of. Okay, and now we had actually as an example Mina. He is 22 years old, and last but not least, he is actually a male. Okay, now look, once I will do it in Java, Java will complain. Okay, why? Because Java will expect that this person, okay, is a method, but the person is not a method, the person is a constructor. Okay, the question is, what do I want actually to do? I want to create an object. And for Java, any object that you want to create is always a new one. And that's why you need actually to write a new keyword in this case. Okay, thus, once I will have it, Okay, Java will compile, and the first person that I'm creating is a person with the attributes Mina, 22, and M, where the M corresponds actually to the gender. Okay, and if someone want to take a look at, let's say, the gender of P1, okay, we will write it as P1 dot gender. And the nice thing is you can read it as follows: P1 gender corresponds in this case to the gender in English of, let's say, P1. Now, once I will compile, this one will compile correctly, and once I will run, what I will be getting here is, I will be getting M, and M corresponds actually to the gender of Mina. And the nice thing is, now, if I want to create two persons, I will be having two variables. One of them is called P1, and the second one is called P2. And both of them are of type person, which corresponds actually to the type of the class itself. Okay, thus, what I will be having here is, I will be having a person P2. Okay, this person is new person. Okay, the second person that we modeled before is Sarah. Sarah is 19 years old and she is actually a female. Okay, thus what I want actually to do now is to print not only, let's say, the gender of P1, but I want actually to find the age of P2. Okay, thus age of P2 corresponds to P2.age. Now, once I will compile and run, okay, what I will be getting as a first statement is the gender of P1, which corresponds to M, and the second actually print, the second display will be 19, which corresponds, let's say, to the age of P2 in this case. That's just actually to summarize. Now we are having a class. The class actually usually consists of three parts. The first part is the attributes. Okay, the attributes corresponds actually to the instance variables of the object. Okay, we are having a second part which consists of either one constructor or multiple constructors. Now we are having one constructor. We will see actually in a few minutes how multiple constructors can be implemented. And last but not least, let's say one part where I will be having actually the methods. The methods usually they describe, let's say in this case, the behavior of a class in this case, okay, or the behavior of object, okay, of objects. Okay, now let's go further. Now, what I can actually do is the following. I want actually to print, let's say, the gender of P1, and then actually take the age of the person. Okay, and what I want actually to do is I want to add to this age 1. Okay, thus I want actually to write p2.age++. Okay, let's see whether actually this one will work. Now, just actually for your information, the age of Sarah that was actually passed here is 19. Now, what I'm having here is just actually an increment of the age of the person actually by 1. Thus, I'm expecting that the value will change, and exactly actually the value will change. Thus, actually take a look at what we are having. We are having actually P1. The P1 is having a name, an age, and a gender. And the nice thing is P2 is having also a name, an age, and a gender. And every person you will be creating will have actually these three features. And once you want actually to get the information about, let's say, P1, you have always to use as a context the name of the object, okay, which is in this case P1 dot, let's say, the name or the age or the gender, depending on the information that you want actually to get in this case. This is actually in a nutshell what an object is nothing else than a box. The box actually will be consisting of instance variables, and what we want actually to do is we want actually to assign the instance variable specific values. But not only that, what we can do is we can actually change, let's say, the name of the person. If Sarah wants actually to change her name to be called Dalida, okay, then in this case, what will happen in this case, whenever I will go and print the name of P2, okay, that's in the box, in the let's say, in the box in the beginning, P2 was having actually Sarah as the name of the person. But what I did actually later, I went actually to the box and I changed, let's say, the name with another actually name. And that's why the latest name that I will be finding actually in the box in this case is Dalida, which is actually the new name. Okay. Hopefully, let's say the concept of, let's say, a class with a specific number of attributes as well as a constructor is clear for everyone. If this is the case, then I want actually to proceed with the following. I will be removing, let's say, the whole thing, and then what I want actually to do is I want actually to print P1. Okay, now once I will compile, Java will tell me I don't have any problem. P1 is an object of type person. And once I will run, usually what I'm expecting here is to get information about Mina, 22, and M. Java will not actually give you this information at all. But what Java actually will give you is a reference. Okay, and the reference is of type person. And what you see here is a hexadecimal, let's say, number that corresponds more or less actually to the memory address where P1 has been actually stored in this case. And that's why if you want actually to get information about P1, where the information consists of the name, the age, and the gender, you have to write it explicitly. Okay, that's what I will be writing here is P1.name, okay, P1.age, okay, last but not least, in this case, plus P1 dot gender in this case. Okay, thus, once I will compile and run actually this one, you will be getting actually the information about the name, the age, and the gender of P1. And if you want actually to do it for P2, unfortunately what I have to do is here, just actually to write it again. Okay, however, in this case, I will do it actually with the second person P2. Okay, thus it's a little bit ugly because I am replicating code, and in few seconds we go back actually to the topic that we discussed last week, which is a topic about actually methods. Now, once I will compile and run, everything actually will be perfect. I will be getting actually two lines. The first line is having information about Mina, 22, and M, and the second line is having information about Sarah, and Sarah is 19 years old as well as female. Okay, now the question is, I would love actually to avoid, let's say, replication of code. Okay, that's what I want actually to do here is, instead of writing this one twice, okay, p1.name plus p1.age plus p1.gender, or p2.name, p2.age plus p2.gender, okay, I want actually to think about a way to define it once, and once I have it, I want actually to call it whenever I want. Okay, thus the classical one is just actually to implement a method that will display information about a person. Thus, I know exactly in this case, the information that I need actually to have is that the method is a static one. It's called display, and it's a void one, because I will not return anything in this case, but what I will do is I will actually display. Okay, that's what will I display in this case? I will just display information about the name of P, okay, plus in this case the age of P, and last but not least the gender of P. Okay, I will add space and then P dot gender in this case. Okay, this is, let's say, my method. Now, what I want actually to do is, instead of writing actually this one twice, if I want actually to display, I will call actually the method display P1. Okay, then display P2. Okay, and in this case, I want actually to get information about P1 and P2. Now, once I will compile, Java will just actually see that in the class there is a method called display. It takes as a parameter a variable of type person, which is actually correct in this case. Okay, if we go up, you will see, let's say, the public static void display in this case. And last but not least, what I will be having here is I will be calling actually the display twice. And the nice thing is you don't need actually to replicate the code. However, you will call actually the display twice. And as we saw last time, this is actually the main concept of method. And this method in this case is a static one. Okay, now what does it mean that this method is a static one? I will just write it down. Okay, the method is a static one. It means the method actually will be called, let's say, the method will be passed parameter, okay, and the parameter is of type person in this case. Okay, now I want to discuss with you another type of methods. I will do it independent of the class person because okay, we have already used it a few weeks ago. And this method will not be a static one, but actually this method is an instance method. First of all, I will show you a predefined one. And last but not least, we will go and implement ourselves instance methods. And the instance methods are methods that has to be invoked on a specific actually data type. Okay, that means every time I have an instance method in a class, I can only invoke it on, let's say, a type of, let's say, the class that I am actually defining the instance method in. Okay, thus, let's go actually to the concept of an instance method. Okay, now everyone actually saw a string before. I will call a string, okay, S is equal to CSEN. Okay, now what I want actually to do is I want to print, in this case, the length of the string. Okay, Java sees that S is of type string. In the string class, there is a method called length. The length method takes 0 parameters. However, I cannot write, give me the length. Java will tell you, what do you want? I have never seen the length implemented actually with 0 parameters. And that's why the way how we will do it is to take the method and we invoke it on an object of type string in this case. S.length. This is now an instance method. The instance method takes 0 parameters. However, I am defining actually the length method in the class that is called string. It's a predefined one. And once I want actually to use it, I will invoke it on S in this case. Now, once I will do it, Java will tell you, okay, I know exactly that there is a method called length in the string class, and this method actually will be invoked on any object of type string, and that's why in this case, once I will do it, okay, you will get actually the length of the string, which is actually 4. Now look, if I would have done it actually with P1, Java will take a look at the type of P1. The type of P1 is person, and person is not a string. And that's why Java will tell you, I'm sorry, I looked at the class P1, but there is no instance method called length, okay, that is defined in the class person in this case. Okay, now let me show you actually something. A string in Java is an object. And that's why I know exactly I can call this string in the following way. Thus, I will be creating an object of type string. I will be using the new keyword. Okay, I will not use the shorthand where I will be writing string s is equal to double quote CSEN, but I will be just creating an object of type string. This object is a new one. That means there is a constructor. The constructor takes only one parameter. This parameter is of type string. Now, once I will compile, Java will tell you, okay, I don't have any problem. I know exactly that the string is an object. It's not a primitive data type. Okay, and last but not least, once you want me actually to print the length of the string, I know exactly that the length of the string is 4, which corresponds actually to the length of the string that is passed actually to the constructor in this case. Okay, now, just actually for your information, the length in this case is a string, I'm sorry, it is an instance actually method. And there are many other methods, okay, in Java, in the string class. One of them is the substring. Okay, the substring is substring 1. That means what I want actually to do is, I want actually to get the string without actually the first character. Okay, and that's why I will be just invoking the substring of 1 on S. Okay, thus, once I will compile, the result in this case will be SEN, which corresponds actually to, in this case, the whole string without actually the first character, because I'm starting with, let's say, index 1 in this case. Okay, let's go back actually to our class. And what we want actually to do is, we want actually to create now a method, but the method should be in this case an instance method. Okay, now what I will do is I will actually take a look at the whole method and I will copy it. I will actually copy it twice. Now, just actually to go from from a static method to an instance method, the first thing is you have actually to remove the instance keyword. The second thing is, since I know exactly that the display method will be, if it is an instance method, will be invoked on something of type person, meaning in this case, if I will go to the way how it will be displayed, it will be displayed as p2.display instead of p2 display of p2. Okay, thus the first one is a static method. The second one is an instance method. Now I will go back and take a look at the signature, meaning in this case the display will not take any parameters. Why? Because the display method, since it's an instance method, it will be invoked on an object and the object is of type person in this case. Now the question is, you want to print what? I want actually to print the name. I don't need actually to write P because actually the P, if I would have actually kept it, Java will tell you I have never seen actually the P before. Okay, thus you will be having 3 errors where p.name, p.age, p.gender, Java doesn't know what the P is. Thus the question is, what do you want to print? Okay, if I will write name, it means I want actually to get the name of the person I will be invoking the display method on. If I will write an age, it means I want to get the age of the person I will be invoking the method on. And if I want to write a gender, it means that I will be getting actually the gender of the person I will be invoking the method on. Now, once I will compile, Java will not complain. Thus, I'm having 2 display methods. One of them is a static method, and the other one is an instance method. Okay, now look, these 2 methods are in this case overloaded because actually they are having the same name. But one of them is taking 1 parameter and the other one is taking actually 0 parameter. Java is smart. Java knows exactly, okay, depending on how you are actually calling the display, which one actually will be called. If I will go down, then you will be seeing display of P1. Thus, I'm having actually 2 display methods. One of them is taking 0 parameters and the other one is taking 1 parameter. That means Java knows exactly the one that will be called is the one with 1 parameter. And this one is a static method because I'm not invoking it on an object. Now, if I will write actually display without any parameters invoked on P2, then actually the display method has to be actually in this case an instance actually method. Okay, and the instance method in this case will be displaying information about, let's say, the person. That means what you will be getting here is the same result. Okay, display of P1 will give you the information about Mina 22 and M, and P2.display will give you actually in this case information about Sarah 19 and F in this case. Okay. Hope this part is clear, and now we will be actually going back and think about, let's say, several methods that we want actually to implement. Now the question is, if I want to implement a method, the method is a void one. It's an instance method, okay, and what this method actually should do is, should just actually display information about the name of the person in this case. Okay, thus what I can do is, I can write actually the following, that the method is not a void method, but the method actually will return something. And what it does actually return is the name of the object I will be invoking the getName method on. Okay, thus, once I have actually this method, what I can do is, I can have information about, let's say in this case, system.out.println. I will be taking P1 and I will invoke the method getName on it. Okay, thus, in this case, I will be just removing the P1, the display of P1 and P2.display in order to see only one, let's say, display, which is in this case the name of P1 in this case. Once I will do it, Java will see that the getName is an instance method that will be invoked on P1. In this case, what I will be getting here is information about P1. In this case, you will be getting actually Mina. Okay, nice. I will go back actually to, let's say, the getName. Okay, now this method in Java, we call it actually, it's a getter method. Now, the question is, what if I want to change the name of a specific person? okay, then Java will tell you this method doesn't need actually to have any return value. And if I want actually to set the name, you have to tell me exactly which new name actually the name of the person wants, okay, would be. That's what I will do is the set name is a method implemented in the person class. It's an instance method. Once I will do it, I have to invoke it on a person, okay, on an object of type person. And what I will be getting here is, in this case, an assignment that the name of the person is equal to n. That means I'm changing actually the name of the person in this case. Now, once I have that, what I will do is I will actually write the following. I will print actually p1.getName. And last but not least, I will just write p1.setName. And if Mina want actually to change his name to be John, in this case, what I will do is I will print it actually a second time and see exactly the effect of it. Just actually for your information, as we said before, just think about, let's say, the objects as a box encapsulating information about the name, the age, and the gender. Now, the first p1.getName will get me the original name of the person p1, which is actually Mina. After setting the name, I went actually to the box, I changed the name Mina to be John, and that's why once I will compile and run, I want actually to see, let's say, the information that the name of P1 was actually Mina. After changing it, actually it's now called John, because in this case what I did is I invoked actually the setName method on P1 actually to get, in this case, P1 to get actually information about the name of P1 actually to be the new name, which is John in this case. Okay, thus in this case I will be having let's say some of the instance methods. One is get name, another one is a set name. The question is, can I implement actually these methods as static ones? So I will tell you, yes, you can do that. And the nice thing is the way actually how you will go from an instance method to a static method, or from a static method to an instance method, is a straightforward one. Okay, that I will implement a method which is a void method, which is called set name. Okay, now the method is a static one. Static means I have actually to pass the parameter, okay, the parameters actually to the set name method. Now the question is, you want to set the name of what? You will tell me, I want to set the name of a specific person P. Okay, with what kind of, let's say, string? Okay, with the string, which is n. Now, it's almost actually the same, but what I need to do now is to write p1.name is equal to n in this case. Now, you will be seeing here a static method, which is called setName. Okay, and if we go down, then you will be seeing actually a method setName, which is an instance method. Now, the only actually difference is the way how you will call it. Now, p1.setName, John, is, let's say, the setName method, which is actually the instance method. If I want actually to invoke, let's say, the other one with the static method, then the setName expects two parameters. The first one is of type person, and that's why I will be writing actually p1, and the second one is of type string in this case. Now, once I will compile, the effect of the method will be the same. Thus, you will be getting Mina, okay, just by getting actually the name of Mina, okay, the original, let's say, name of the person. By just using the set name, you are changing the name of the person P1 with the static method actually set name, and that's why once you get actually the name of P1, after changing its value, you will get actually John as a result. Okay, thus, let's go back to, let's say, the display method. Now, what I want actually to do is, I want to remove actually everything and write here P1. Okay, thus, we saw it actually before. Once I will compile, Java will tell you, I don't have any problem. You want actually to print, let's say, an object. Now, what you will get as a result is the reference in this case. Okay, thus you will be getting a reference of type person, and as we said actually before, this corresponds actually to an hexadecimal representation dB. Okay, 1db9742 is the memory address written actually in hexadecimal representation. Okay, thus the question is, what does Java do whenever actually I write system.out.println of an object? Okay, Java will say I will be invoking automatically a toString method on it. Okay, thus once I will compile it, Java will not complain, although I don't have a toString method implemented in the person class. Okay, this toString method is implemented in a class, okay, which is called actually the object class. And since actually a person is an object, Java actually will know exactly that P1 is having also a toString method. Okay, now we will go actually later into a concept of inheritance. It means the toString method got inherited actually from the object class, because a person is an object, and the object there is a toString method. And that's why what Java will do is, whenever I will just print actually a statement, I will be getting a toString method invoked on, let's say, the object itself. And what you will get here is the original implementation of the toString method is a method that just gives you the reference in this case. The question is, if I'm not happy actually with that, can I change actually its implementation? I will tell you, yes, you can actually do it. And in this case, we will be talking about a topic which is called overriding. I'm not happy with the behavior of the toString method. And what I want actually to do is, I want to change it. And that's why I know exactly that the toString method doesn't take any parameters. However, what it does is, it returns actually a string. Okay, does. It's an instance method. Now the instance method is implemented in the class person. I'm not happy with the toString method that was implemented in the object class, and that's why I'm overriding it. The question is, what do I want to return? The toString method is invoked on an object of type person. That means what I want to do is, I want to return the name, I want to return the age, and last but not least, I want to return the gender of the person in this case. Now, the nice thing is, once I will do it, Java will tell me, okay, nice, I have a toString method in this case. The T is lowercase, the S is uppercase. Now, I am having p1.toString, the T lowercase, S uppercase. Java knows exactly. It will call the method now that is implemented in the person class. And that's why once actually you will do it, what you will get as a result here is Mina 22 and M. You have to take care. Okay, the Java is case sensitive. If you will go and you change actually something, that means you will miss, let's say, the uppercase S with the toString. Java will not complain, will tell you, okay, there is a new method. It's called actually toString method. Okay, however, once I will compile and run, what I am actually doing here is I'm actually calling it with p1.toString. Now, in this case, the toString method that will be taken is the one that is implemented in the object class, because actually I didn't actually override actually correctly. And that's why in this case, I know exactly once I want actually to override, okay, the method has to have the following signature, is a method that returns a string. It's an instance method, not a static one, and the method is called toString. That doesn't take any parameters, because this method will be invoked on an object of type person. Okay, now the nice thing is in Java, okay, if I will run it actually now, is you will get actually Mina 22 and M. Okay, now the question is, what would have happened if I will remove actually the toString method in this case? Okay, once I will compile, Java will not have any problem. Once I will run, if you remember actually what we said actually before, if I will just actually print, let's say, information about P1, then actually the result that you will be getting is nothing else than, in this case, the reference. However, once I will run it now, Java will give you information about Mina 22 and M in this case. Okay, why? Because Java, once it sees a print line or a print statement of an object, automatically it will invoke the toString method on it. Okay, and that's why at the end of the day, once you will compile and you will run, here you will be getting Mina 22 and M. Once you will remove it, what you will be getting here is the toString method will be invoked automatically on P1. That means you will be getting Mina 22 and M. When do I get actually the reference? If I will go to the class and I see that actually this method is not available, I will remove it, I will compile, and I will run. The toString method that will be invoked is the one that is implemented in the object class, and that's why you get actually only the reference in this case. Thus, I will return it back. just because I know exactly once I want to display, I want to get information about all attributes of the class itself. Okay, thus here you see now few methods. Okay, some of them are instance methods, some of them are static methods. Okay, both methods actually they just describe the behavior of objects. You saw actually in the beginning attributes. These are actually the instance variables of the class, and you saw actually constructor, one constructor, which is actually the person constructor in this case. The question is, what if I want actually to create, let's say, all persons, okay, that I want actually to create are persons that are having actually the same age. Okay, I will tell you it's not a big problem. What I will do is I will use actually, let's say, a constructor. The constructor will take 3 parameters, and now if I want to create a third one, okay, then this person will be called Ali. Okay, and I know Ali is also 22 years old, and last but not least, Ali is male. Okay, if you take a look at actually these 3 persons that I'm creating, they have actually one common thing, which is always actually frozen. It's the age. Here the age is 22, here the age is 22, and here is the age 22. The question is it possible, instead of having a constructor with 3 variables, to have actually a constructor only with 2, keeping in mind that even a constructor with 2 will be creating an object with 3 instance variables? Okay, I will tell you, yes, it's possible. Okay, that's what I will do is, I will have actually one that takes only 2 parameters, and these parameters are the parameters that change. Okay, meaning in this case, the string n as well as the char g, which corresponds to the name and the age in this case. Now what I will do is, I will write name is equal to name, and then age is equal to 22. And last but not least, I will write actually gender is equal to G in this case. Now, once I will compile, Java will tell me, okay, I'm seeing actually, sorry, expected display, here, semicolon. Now, once I will compile, Java will tell me, okay, I see, sorry. I see here actually 2 constructors. Okay, however, actually the one that I'm actually using is actually the first one. Okay, that's the question is, can I use actually the second one? The second one is a constructor that takes only 2 parameters, where the age is equal actually to 22 in this case. Java will tell you, yes, I really don't have any problem with it. Okay, that's what I will get here is the following. I will get here 22 removed. I will get here 22 removed, and the P3, I will actually keep the 22. Okay, the question is, what will I get if I will write system.out.println P1 versus system.out.println actually P3? Okay, now once I will compile actually this one, Java will see that actually I'm having 2 constructors. One of them is taking 2 parameters. The first parameter is a string, the second parameter is a character. That means actually the second one is the one that will be used. And here I'm using another actually constructor, where the first one is a string, the second one is an integer, and the third one is a character. And there is a constructor actually with this, let's say, with 3 parameters with the corresponding data type, string, int, and character in this case. And once actually you will compile and you will run, you have to know that actually Mina is also having an age, Sarah is having an age, and Ali is having an age, and the age of Mina is 22, because actually in, let's say, the constructor itself, we wrote actually something of the following form, that the age is equal to 22. The question is, what would have happened if I don't actually assign an age to anything? Java actually will assign a default value, and the default value is 0. Okay, thus, whenever I will be having something of the following form, string name, then actually this one is having a null value. Okay, this one is having as a value 0. Okay, and this one is having the escape character in this case. Okay, and that's why if you don't do it, actually Java will do it actually automatically for you. Now what I can do is I can actually change, let's say, the default value from 0 to 22. Now once I will compile and you will run, you will get actually the same result, where the name is Mina. Okay, the age is 22. Okay, because I'm getting actually this value. Okay, if I wouldn't have done it, you would have received 0, because int is a primitive data type, and the default value of int is a 0. Thus, in this case, what you will be getting here is 0. Okay, thus you are having two ways. Either you change the default value from 0 to a specific value, or inside actually the second constructor, what you will be doing here is you will write, in this case, let's say age is equal to 22. Okay, if I will change it here to age equal to 29, okay, keeping actually the age is equal to 22, Java will assign first the age of the person to be equal to 22. However, once I will call the person constructor, then actually the age will change. And that's why here you will see that the age of Mina is 29 and not 22 at all. Okay, that's in the beginning. Let's say the name is not 0 because I'm changing the default value from 0 to 22. However, once I call it with person of, let's say, Mina and M, what you will be getting here is the age will be assigned actually to 29, which will be actually the latest value of the age in this case. Okay, now, and let's go further to the following actually concept in order actually to understand, let's say, reference manipulation in general and references in this case. I will be having actually two persons. One of them is Mina. Mina is 22 years old. Okay, and the second one is also Mina. And it turned out that actually the two persons are having the same name. They are having the same age. And last but not least, they are having actually the same gender. Okay, and what I want actually to do is, I want actually to check whether P1 is equal to P2, yes or no. Okay, that's what I want actually to do is P1 equal actually to P2. Now you are having actually two persons. One of them is P1 and the other one is P2. And these two persons are different ones. Why? Because P1 is created with new person and P2 is created actually with a new person. Thus, I know exactly that I'm talking about different persons. If someone actually will tell me, are the two persons equal, yes or no? I will tell you, no, I'm sorry, they are actually not equal. You will get actually false in this case. They are not equal. Okay? Thus, the question is, if the toString method of P1, okay, is it equal to, I'm sorry, it's toString method that is invoked on P1, okay, is it equal to P2.toString method? Okay, I will just actually check it. If you will compile, Java will go actually from a compare to string. Okay, Java will go from a comparison of actually two references, P1 actually to P2 actually to the comparison of two strings. Now, what you have actually to know is that the string in this case is also an object. That means actually every object here actually will get a different reference, and that's why P1.string is not equal to P2.string. Now the question is, can I use something which is predefined in Java that checks whether actually two strings are equals in terms of content? Java will tell you, yes, you can do that. There is actually a method called equals. Equals doesn't actually check the references, but checks actually the content. Now, once I will compile and I will run actually this one, what you will be getting as a result is true. Why? Because the toString method will create a string Mina 22 and M. The second one will create Mina 22 and M. The two strings are not equal in terms if you use equal because an equal checks actually the references. However, if you go and use the predefined instance method equals that is defined in the string class, okay, this one actually will be equal in this case. Okay, thus, let me go back. Now I will be having actually P1 and I will be having P3. Okay, where P3 is also a person. It's person P3 is equal now to P1. Now you have actually to take care. Now the question is, how many persons am I creating in total? Okay, here I'm seeing only the use of two new keywords. Thus, actually, in this case, I know exactly that I'm having only two persons. I'm creating a third person. However, I'm assigning it, I'm just declaring a new person, P3, and I'm not actually creating actually this person, but I'm referring actually to P3, okay, to be actually equal to P1. Now the question is, are the references the same? Java will tell you yes, actually there are two references actually pointing actually to the same person. Thus, in this case, I will be getting, let's say, information about P1, that P1 or P3 are, let's say, 2 pointers, and the 2 pointers are actually pointing to the same person in this case. Now the question is, what would have happened if I were write P1 dot set name, and then it's P1, and I will change the name of Mina to be equal to John. Okay, thus the question is, what will be the content of P1? Java will tell you, I really don't have any problem. Okay, if you want actually to get information about, sorry, here string. Okay, if you want actually to get the information about P1, then actually P1 is not actually called Mina anymore. Actually P1 is called John. He is 22 years old, and it's actually of he is a male. And the question is, since P1 and P3 are pointing to the same thing, does P3 notice actually any change that is done in P1? And Java will tell you yes, because actually in this case P3 and P1 are two references, and that's why anything that you will do with P1, P3 will notice it. Everything that you will do with P3, P1 actually will notice it. If I will take P3 age is equal to 99, okay, and you want actually to print in this case P1, what you will be getting here is you will be getting John, but the age is not 22 anymore. The age is in this case 99 and M. Okay, you will tell me, but I didn't change actually the age of P1. I'm telling you, you are changing the age of P3, since P1 and P3 are, let's say, two references in this case referring actually to the same person. These are actually two things that are actually referring to the same person. Thus, anything that you will do with the gender with P3, P1 will see it. Anything that you will do with the name through P1, actually P3 will see it, and vice versa. Okay, thus in this case, if you will tell me, are the P1 and the P3 still actually the same, I will be telling you yes, because actually in this case the P3 is equal to P1. Okay, and anything that you will do, both of them actually will notice it, and actually both of them will have actually the same result in this case. Thus, for now, this is actually the first lecture about classes and objects, where at the end of the day, we are actually thinking about, let's say, a class. The class is called actually person. It's having three attributes. Okay, the three attributes are defined with in terms of instance variables. I'm having here two constructors. One of them is taking one parameter, the other one is taking actually two parameters. Okay, why am I using actually the one with two parameters? In order actually to freeze some of the values in this case, and that's why the parameters that I'm having here that I pass actually the formal parameters of the person are only the ones that will change, which is in this case the name and the gender. However, the age is actually something that will never change. And then I will be having methods. We saw in this lecture two types of methods. One of them is a static method. Okay, and the second type of method is an instance method, and it was actually clear actually for everyone how we can actually go from an instance method actually to a static method. And last but not least, we worked out actually some of the examples with references, okay, where I was creating three variables of type person. However, I am only creating actually two person object, and the third person is assigned actually to P1. Okay, thus we said at the end of the day, anything that you will change in P1, P3 will notice it. However, anything that you will do actually in P1, P2 will not notice it at all. That means if I will go and print actually P2, P2 will remain actually with the same information in this case, which is Mina 22 and M, because P2 is an independent reference that is not related neither to P1 nor to P3, and that's why any change that you will do with P1, P3 will see it. Any change that you will do with P3, P1 will change it, but actually P2 will become actually independent in this case. Thank you very much, and next time we will go actually to advanced topic of classes and objects. We will be adding actually some of let's say the concepts in classes and objects like static variables, and then we will go actually into a second lecture about classes and objects next week. Have a nice day and see you soon.